Hey everybody, my name is Desiree. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've had an actual sit-down video, and that's because I've been busy, which obviously you guys know if you watch my vlogs. Let me first explain something to you guys. So, I know I've said that I was gonna do kind of BTS webtoon series on this channel, but I found that one, it takes really long, well, a week. It takes a whole week for there to be a new episode, and then the episode is really short, so I don't want to have like a 1-minute episode or video. Does that make sense? Basically what I'm trying to say is the episodes are too long to make an actual video on, and I was gonna do like let them add up and then make a video overall. But what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a video on the journal stuff that I do, because I have a journal that's dedicated to like BTS theories. So yeah, I don't know when that will be. The only reason why I'm making this video now is because my first class got cancelled, so I have the room to myself, so I can comfortably talk to a camera alone. But anyway, let's move on with today's video, and that is a book review. I know, so exciting. The reason why I want to do a book review is because I've been reading a lot lately, and these are books that I really enjoyed or am enjoying because I'm not done with them yet. Some of them are recommended from PewDiePie because he also does a book review, and then some of them are just from my writing class that I'm taking right now. So let's get it. So the first book is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. This book is pretty dark, I would say. It's about this man who does not feel human, and he feels like he has to pretend to be human in order to survive, basically. He doesn't understand what makes humans happy. He doesn't understand why humans do the things they do, and if he does, he thinks it's out of pure selfishness. Throughout the entire book, he's just trying to figure that out, and at one point he meets a guy who kind of cons him into always drinking and always sleeping with like prostitutes and such, and he ends up getting in trouble with his dad, and his dad kind of cuts him off money-wise, and so he's kind of forced to live on his own with this friend, barely meeting ends, but whenever he does meet ends, he spends it on alcohol and prostitutes. Eventually he meets a woman who is kind of like him, like she doesn't understand why people are living, and she kind of just wants to end her own life, so they agree to do it. They go out and try to drown themselves, but it only works for the girl. He's taken in and he's like watched over. Another woman is into his life. She has a daughter, and he kind of is like, well, I'm kind of ruining your guys' life because I'm pretending to be sober, but I'm not. So he runs away, meets another girl who works at a pharmacy, I believe. They fall in love. She falls in love. He kind of just with her because she has drugs. Eventually, something happens to the wife. I believe she gets raped by 2 men, and he sees it and he doesn't do anything to like stop it, and he's kind of like, well, if I can't do that, then what's the point of me even being here or whatever. So he goes and takes drugs again. He takes a pill that makes him, I want to say, like fall asleep for a couple of days, and people take that as like, oh, he's trying to commit suicide again. They put him in a mental hospital, and then he realizes like he was trying so hard not to let people see he wasn't human, and then he ended up in a mental hospital where people see those people as not human. So all his efforts to stay, like keeping his secret, were for a waste, essentially. This book I think is really good. I have never read a book faster in my life, and I don't know why. Like, I think the darkness of the book is really interesting, and then after I had read it, I had discovered that supposedly this is almost like an autobiography of the author, because after this book was published, a few days later, I believe, the author committed suicide. It's interesting, one, that he wrote an entire book, came up with this character, and people didn't really realize it until, you know, after he killed himself, that, oh, maybe this was his suicide note. I definitely think it is worth the read. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, and I think you can get it on Amazon, like a used copy or such. But I definitely recommend it. So, next book. The next book I have not finished reading. It's called Confessions of a Mask. It is also, oh, I forgot to mention, that last one was a Japanese literature type book. This is also Japanese literature. I have not gotten very far in this book because once I got it, I had to come back to college, so I was kind of busy with other works. But essentially this is about a man who discovers he is a homosexual, and he kind of has to pretend he's not, because during that time it obviously wasn't okay, and that's all I really can say about it. But from what I've gotten from it, it seems very interesting and definitely worth the read. It's by Yukio Mishima. I honestly have no idea how to say it. This is the cover. Also, sorry for my nails. I will try finish reading this as soon as I can and maybe update you guys on what I think, but I do recommend it only because from what I've read and what it seems to be about, it seems really interesting. So check it out. You can also get it on Amazon, I believe. The next book is not Japanese literature. It's actually a memoir that I had to read for my writing class that I'm taking, and it is Michelle Obama's Becoming. It is a really long book. It's split into 3 parts: Becoming Me, Becoming Us, and Becoming More. So the Becoming Me is basically Michelle's early life, from being a kid to like being in high school to being in college and such, and like getting internships. Becoming Us is kind of where she meets Obama and like they become a couple, then they become married, and basically how she's had to live with Obama running for president or for Senate and all this stuff. And then Becoming More is while they're in the White House and how that journey was like, and then after they leave the White House.
All around me are familiar faces.
Overall, it was really, really good. I love Michelle Obama. Some of the stories in here she describes so well, you kind of forget it's real life. There was a point where she was describing when Obama was running for Senate and how it was really close and she didn't think he was gonna get it, and while I was reading I was like, oh my god, he's not gonna win. But then, you know, you sit back and you realize that Barack was our president, so. There's also a point where she describes a dream about when they're in the White House and somebody brought over like these big cats, like lions and cheetahs and stuff. There were no leashes, there was no like gates to protect anybody, and her daughters went out to pet them, and then one launched at her. So the Secret Service, you know, shot a tranquilizer and then it hit, I think, Sasha, I want to say. And I was panicking because I was like, oh my god, I didn't see this in the news. Like, why wasn't this in the news? But it turns out it was just a dream. If you're a fan of Michelle Obama, I would definitely recommend getting her memoir. It's super good and I loved it, and I think if you've never had audiobook, you can do a free trial and listen to Michelle herself read the book to you. The only thing is it's kind of slow, so I would speed it up if you don't have a lot of time. Overall, I loved it. It's super good. I have like multiple notes from it. I don't know, it's just fun to learn about Michelle that you wouldn't have learned just by knowing she was the first lady. 10 out of 10. Next book. So the next and final book is The Age of Miracles. I'm currently reading it, so I have not finished. I think I'm at about chapter 12, so I've had about this much covered. First of all, let's talk about the cover. When you see the cover and you see the title, you're kind of thinking, what is this? You kind of are confused at this point. You have no idea what's going on. At first I thought, you know, I'm not gonna like this book. It's gonna be about a girl trying to find her way because she's a teenager or whatever. But as soon as you start reading it, it's totally not that. It's essentially about the slowing of the Earth's rotation and how the Earth is, you know, essentially trying to get rid of the human race. The perspective she's telling it in is kind of like she's already in the future and she's kind of telling us the story from what she remembers. And it's really interesting because the first couple of chapters you don't really know what's going on until she does, essentially. And it's really crazy because you're kind of there with her thinking like, okay, well, what is happening to the Earth? Like, the rotation is slowing, yeah, but why? Like, what's going on? People speculate, oh, it's because of climate change, it's because of, you know, all the stuff that we're doing to the Earth, which I agree. And there's just things in here that are scary only because today things are happening to our Earth that shouldn't be happening. Like, it rained in, it didn't rain. It snowed in Los Angeles and Riverside, which is more SoCal, where it never really snows in those areas. It shouldn't. There's a part in the book where an eclipse happens, but they don't know it's an eclipse. But as you're reading it, you feel like the sun is literally dying off and they're gonna be without it, or I don't know, it's just really crazy. And the book honestly makes me feel kind of anxious as I read it because obviously I don't know what's gonna happen until I read it. It's super good so far, and I'm glad my professor is making us read it because if, honestly, I know you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but if I were to see this, I wouldn't have even gave it a second thought. I recommend it if you're into a kind of sci-fi, I guess, adventure, not really sci-fi, but more of a disaster, like natural disaster type book. It's also a coming of age book because I think she's like 13 or something. She's in middle school, so, you know, around that time where things are changing. But I definitely recommend it. You can get it on Amazon, you could probably get it at Barnes & Noble, probably other bookstores, I don't know. These are the 4 books that I recommend. If you like to read, definitely, you know, definitely give them a shot. They're really interesting. I really want to start reading more Japanese literature only because so far the authors that I've read, I don't know, just the story they have is super interesting and I really love it. So my memory card got full and I was cut off. The Japanese literature is really cool, so I'm going to try to read more of that. I am not really into memoirs per se, only because I'd rather read a thriller and something like that has to do with mystery and fiction. But Michelle is an exception because I love her. I never thought I'd read this book, but I'm glad I am. So natural disaster books are pretty cool, it turns out. If you have any book recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. If you want to follow me on social media, like my Instagram or my Twitter, they are in the description. If you want to follow my journaling account on Instagram, it will also be in the description. I'm going to the ATEEZ concert this next weekend coming up, I believe. So there will be a vlog on that later. So if you like ATEEZ and want to be a part of their first world tour, kind of, then be on the lookout for that. That's all I got, I think. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me talk about books. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.